Previously on the Outside of Sunday podcast.
I was born in Russia. I had a thing called amniotic band syndrome. I was scared to get out of the house. Like I didn't want to go out of the house, but I didn't want to be alone. He was not an easy first baby. It was torture.
Hey, you're listening to the Outside of Sunday podcast. Is your faith stuck on Sunday? Christianity was never meant to be constrained to a weekly church service. I'm Krista, and I'm here to help and encourage you to live your faith outside of Sunday. Do you feel like you've worked through a little bit in that time, the time that you were in Russia?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've worked through that?
So we touched on that with my counsellor, which was a really weird thing to do because before that I had never really talked about Russia apart from, I'm from Russia.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yeah, I actually am, I promise. And it's not a joke. I wouldn't laugh about that one. So I hadn't really kind of delved deeper in how I felt about it. But I'm actually proud to be Russian because, and I know that probably sounds ridiculous, especially in the climate that we are at the moment with Russia fighting. But it's where God put me. And so how could I not be proud of that? And that's my inheritance. That's my blood is Russia. And my kids are half Russian.
Yes.
So I've got to be proud because I want them to be proud of who they are and not hide half of them. And it's funny, when Judah was a baby, he was probably a few months old. Do you remember the show Lost and Found? David Lomas.
Yes, and they would do like the DNA test and
try and find a family member. Like someone was adopted and or they'd lost touch with a family member. So there was this girl, same age as me, from Russia, was at the same orphanage. So same name, same orphanage.
Wow.
I think we just missed each other because she came in a little bit. She was a bit older when she came in, and so she came when she was 3 and I'd left. And so we didn't quite meet each other.
Weren't spending
but
time
she
in the
was on
orphanage
that
together.
show, and she actually was adopted to a Kiwi family who lived in Rotorua.
Stop it.
Yeah, and actually my in-laws knew her.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. And so the mum was born in or lived in the same township or province that I was from.
Pskov?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there, and then when she went back and she found a sister or something, I can't remember fully. The interpreter or the person that dealt with the transaction of, I guess it's a transaction, was the same person that Mum dealt with for me, and it was. I remember watching it. Caleb was at music practice that night.
Yeah.
Tanner, sorry, wrong child. Judah was asleep or awake, I don't know, probably awake. And I remember watching it and just bawling my eyes out. And I was like, I don't know why I'm crying. But it actually hit too close to home because it was like watching my life.
It's so
it's
parallel.
Just everything was the same orphanage, the same, she's the same age, and it just was trippy. And the fact that, she ended up in Rotorua, but I never met her, which is interesting.
Did she find her parents? I'm interested to know.
I think she found a family member, and they had a bit of a relationship. I can't remember.
Do you think you'd ever do a DNA thing?
No. But I remember, so carrying on with that story, I remember being really upset and not knowing why. This was in the brink of my, I'm anxious. Everything was too much. Yeah. And I remember FaceTiming my in-laws. Or actually, I text messaged and sent them a photo of my face with my just tears streaming down my face. And they called me instantly on FaceTime. And they watched the rest of the program with me via FaceTime.
They're so cute.
Shout out to them. My mother-in-law is probably going to watch this back and be so embarrassed. But do you know what? It really helped me because that was just their way of being able to be there because my husband wasn't able to be there. But the funniest thing is that then the lady that adopted the girl called Vika from Russia was at church on Sunday.
Wait a minute. You didn't say her name was Vika too.
Yeah, she had the same name as me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning. It was crazy.
Okay, so she has the same
name. She's the same age.
And now she's at church, or her mum?
Not her mum, the adopted mum. So she knew, so she came to church because they used to come to church, the same church, back in the day, before they moved down south or something.
Wow.
And so then she was up visiting one of her friends, and they brought her to church. And she was like, "Oh, come and meet Vika." And I was like to Leanne, I can't. I just, even when she looked at me, I burst into tears. And I like had to hide. And so I had to tell Leanne, my mother-in-law, I was like, you have to go and tell this person that please don't introduce her, because I'm not in the right headspace. Yeah. And I think now if she'd come back to church and wanted to meet me, it would be okay, because I've dealt through. I was too raw. I was right in the middle of it. Had barely dealt with any mental health that I had, and it was just having watched that a few days ago, like a few days beforehand, I was like, I just can't, because right now it's too close to home, and I didn't realize Russia had affected me until that moment, and I was like, okay. It really has affected me. And
but where are you now with it?
I'm good with it.
You're good?
I'm good with it. I'm happy, and I'm happy to talk about it, obviously. I'm sitting here.
I'm amazed that you've not been crying.
I
know, you and I are both criers. If you start crying, I'll start crying.
Yeah, and I'm watching
so
you watering, and I'm
trying to hold back.
Don't water.
I'm like, suck it up, Krista.
I am normally one to cry, but I think because of where I'm at with my relationship with Jesus and where I have managed to get with my mental health, that I can sit here and not cry about it, because otherwise all you'll have for your podcast is me crying. And I don't know if that's a great podcast.
Just us weeping silently.
It'll be like the scripture, Jesus wept.
Jesus
that
wept
was it.
for 40 minutes.
For 40 minutes.
No, but that's honestly a testament to the healing work that the Lord has done on your heart.
Yeah, actually.
What? Amazing.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. And so, when my third child came through,
yes,
and I touched that he was a bit extra, and so he's 1.5, and we've had some extra medical issues that have come through, and even my sister was like, "Are you okay?" Because she knows that I'm fragile. I don't know if fragile is the right word, but
you're soft-hearted.
You're
tender-hearted.
Yeah, sure, that's it. But she knows where my mental health can be, not in a good place. And so when things rocked our world, which it did, that rocked our Caleb and I's world, I was like, oh no, am I going to spiral out again? Because that was basically a prime, that would be the perfect reason to spiral out and just retreat.
Yeah.
And I actually think I managed it okay.
Wow. I think you did. Yeah, you totally did.
Yeah.
So all of this that you've been going through with the postpartum depression or anxiety, and then obviously it bringing up all of the things of surrounding your birth, I don't know what you'd call it, your birth situation, being in the orphanage and everything like that in Russia. What did that do to your relationship with Christ?
So there was a time in that where I was probably as distant as I could be with him, just because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have a newborn. I don't have the capacity to. And I went to church. I still went to church. I worked in church. So I went to church. I worked in church.
But that was it.
But that was basically it, kind of thing. I kind of did my tick box, and then that felt like it was sufficient for the time for me. That's how I got through it. And then I just realized, actually, you can't do this without him. And so that's when I started coming to small group, because I would it was a huge thing for me to come to a small group because it was totally out of my, like I was anxious. Like that was my, oh no, it's all coming back up type thing. And I just knew I had to.
Like it would be a trigger.
Yeah, it was a trigger for me, just getting into the small group and like, what are the people going to say about me that are in the small group? And like, do I even belong in the small group? Because it was like mums with babies. Well, they were like kids now, like you guys.
Yeah.
You and like my sister and so you've all done parenthood for longer than I have, and I just felt like I was not good enough to be in that
Can
group.
I just say I never felt that at all.
Yes, I know.
Never.
And that's and often no one does feel that, but that's how me is with my mental health. That's the craziest thing. It's not that I wanted to feel like that. It's just that is what
It was being
like this
projected on you or
constant like
something.
noise of
Yeah.
you do not belong in this space. You do not belong outside of your house. You are not good enough to be in, or you do not. Yeah, it was just always like this, and it was my voice saying it in my brain, and it was really, really hard. And my sister kept going, "You need to come along."
She's relentless.
For ages, so relentless.
In the best way.
Yeah. But I just was like, oh, fine. If it will get her off my back, I will just come once and then tick that off my list type thing. But actually coming to small group or life group or whatever you want to call it, that is when it changed. And that
Really?
yeah, absolutely. Wow. That is when I realized actually I have a fire for God. My fire that I had when I was a teenager came back.
Wow.
And I realized that, what am I doing in this life if it's not what am I doing for him?
Yeah.
And so, got into my Bible more. Yeah. I'm trying to tick off reading my whole Bible book by book. So,
Awesome.
I've got about 10, 11 books in.
Woo.
So, still a long way to go. But
you made it past Leviticus?
Yeah. I'm not doing it in order.
Okay.
So, I thought that was too much. But I've done, what I can handle. And then, and so just things that I thought I'd never do beforehand.
Wow.
I'm doing because I'm stepping out and I know that God's got me.
And have you seen a difference? Like, I mean, I know we talked already about now when you are anxious, you'll like go to the word. Is there any other area in your life where you feel like you can just see the fruit of your relationship in Christ that's
I feel
different
like
from
my
before?
kids.
Yeah?
I feel like my kids.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, like Judah is the sweetest 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old. We will, how I said we watch Life FM in the car. We listen to Life FM in the car. So that is our car music. And often I'll catch him with his eyes closed and his hands up praising God because I guess he's following what I've done because that's what I do. Not in the car while I'm driving. Don't worry, I'm a safe driver.
Lord.
Praise Jesus.
Let's go meet him.
No, I'm
Definitely
safe driving. But, and we pray every night before bed and we read the Bible together and just now that he's in a Christian school, he's getting more of it as well. And I think it's great to see, like you really know where you are with God when your kids start talking to you. I feel like when they ask questions and you're like, oh, that should be a simple question that I should know, but I don't. But so that's also another push.
It spurs you on.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's totally like, actually, I should be able to answer these kids' questions.
Great.
Yeah.
I know we've kind of touched on it already, but what was it that you think got you through this massively difficult season?
Yeah, it was definitely my mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law?
My mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And my husband, but there's just, I don't know what it was coming from my mother-in-law, but knowing that there was someone other than the husband who had to kind of love you and want the best for you. Because, when you're a husband and a wife, that's what you kind of have to do. But it was her push to see me better.
The support that
and
she
the
kind of
support
gave.
that she gave her and my father-in-law, of course, they go hand in hand together. But yeah, it was them. It was them that pushed me, and I realized actually I'm doing this for more than just me. Yeah.
Wow. What did that support look like?
She organised the counselling session because I was just too scared. She looked after my son when I had to go because I didn't really want my 3-month-old in there with me. And it was just practical things. I used to be able to go around to her house if I needed to and just be like, it's too much. I can't.
And she lives around the corner.
And she lives around the corner from us. So that's like another blessing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if Judah was too much and wouldn't sleep, I would just text and see if she was at home. At that stage, she had a job, but it was not a full-time job. Like it was her missional work overseas.
Oh,
yeah. So if she wasn't overseas, she was at home. So I'd message and say, can I come around? Can you hold Judah? Because I can't anymore. And the practical stuff that my mum just couldn't do because she was busy running a business.
Yeah.
And my mum just supported in a different way.
Yeah.
But Leanne and Gary were very practical, and it did help that we lived around the corner from them.
So just like a bit of advice for someone, because sometimes I don't know what to do or how to help someone.
Yeah.
So a bit of advice, would you say, is just to offer your services?
Yeah, offer them.
Offer to hold the baby.
And I'm not meaning offer once because I will say, like, I mean...
You'll say no.
I'll say no. I mean, the person who's in that situation that I was in will more than likely say no. And more than often will say it more than once.
Yeah.
No.
Don't give up.
Because it was, for me, it was, I'm the mother. I should be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like, if I can't do this, then why am I even a mother? Type thing. So I can imagine that is what any other mother who's going through the same thing is thinking. But it was her persistence, like, I will help you. I will get you through. I'm here if you need to talk, or I will take you to the counsellor, or let's go book you a doctor's appointment so that you can get the right prescription that you need for this season.
Yeah.
And I think as a Christian, it was so taboo, that one, and I just said, do you know what, it's just needed for now. It is a very grey line. You know, look, it's not black and white.
People, look, if you have a different opinion on this, that's totally fine. Zero judgment either way.
Absolutely.
I'm for both. I'm for supernatural healing, and I'm also for healing by the doctors.
And I'm for doing what you think is best for you. If that is going to the doctor and getting a prescription, go to the doctor and get a prescription.
And like you say, for you, it was a season.
Yeah.
And
for me, it was my last resort.
Yeah.
Like I had tried everything and it was my last resort. And it was a season. It helped. And now I haven't been back on it since.
And I think that's amazing, you know, that you haven't needed to go back on it.
Yeah.
But at least you know there's an option if it does get hard.
And I'm not going to be like, oh, no. I haven't been on it for 4 years, so I better not go on it ever again. Because I know that actually there might be a time where it's too much and I do need to go back.
Yeah.
At least now I know that my doctor and I know what will work for me.
Now, not every mum or woman, you know, not necessarily a mum, but not everyone has an amazing mother-in-law or mother or sister or best friend or someone in their life who can offer the kind of support that your wonderful mother-in-law did.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you would have out there to someone who is struggling either with postpartum depression, anxiety, or even just like a really hard season of mental health struggle? What advice would you kind of have for them?
I would say if you were at this stage where you can't do it anymore and you know that you need help, find someone that you can go and talk to a doctor, because your doctor will help you and guide you in the right direction. If that's to give you a reference for a counsellor, because that's a great start. That's where you can unpack where the actual issues are. Why are you feeling like this? How can we give you tools so that if it does happen, you can get yourself out of it. And there's some great mum groups on Facebook. There's some not great mum groups on Facebook, but there's some great mum groups on Facebook. And so seek that out. And if in doubt, go to a church. Go to the church. There's always someone willing to be a listening ear. But I think if you're ready to reach out, then you have to be ready. I think that's the first thing. If you're not ready, then nothing anyone is going to say is going to help you. So once you're ready in your brain and your heart, because your brain and your heart are ready at different times with your mental health, unfortunately, it's not always the same at the same time. But like it took my family like months to get me to the stage where I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore by myself. Let's go get some help. So if you are a family member of somebody going through this mental health issue or anxiety or depression, don't stop. Whatever it is, don't stop. Don't stop offering.
Even when they say no.
Yeah, even when they say no.
Time.
Even if they say no 1,000 times, it might be the 1,001th time. 1,001st time. First 1,001st time that they might say yes. Actually, please help.
And it's worth it to save someone. You know, like, who knows what someone would do, you know, like, or the depths that people go to.
You are not in your right mind. I was not in my right mind. I would never hurt myself or my child, but I can imagine being where I was, how easy it could be to just tip the scale to actually, you know,
making a bad choice.
Making a choice that is not what we want. But I was able, I don't know, I just was never at that stage. And I think because I had sought help eventually, I never got to that stage. And that's what I pray, that if you are, come and talk to me. I mean, I am not perfect and I still go through it, like I said, but at least I know where you're going or like how you're feeling.
And I can relate in a small way to feeling like you're at the end of your rope. And sometimes, like with my first child, I would just have to put him in the room, let him cry, close the door, and then like throw myself on my bed and let myself have a cry. And then take 20 minutes or whatever I needed to like calm myself down, to get myself in the right frame of mind to be able to go back and try again.
That's the best advice I got given was he can cry.
He's not going to
He can
die
cry. It's
cries.
okay. Crying is okay. You do not have to like instantly console him. And if it's been, there was times where it was like hours, like 2-3 hours long. And it was just like, this is enough. You can set them down in their cot as long as they are safe and you know they can't hurt themselves. And as a small baby, they can't get out of the cot. So that's your safe place. Right? And remove yourself for 10 minutes because 10 minutes of crying it's not. It's really, it's okay. Like I said, I do not remember anything from before I was like 5. So you're good. They're not going to remember that you left them in their cot for 10 minutes crying. But if that allows you to regain yourself, have some breaths, get yourself a coffee, do some dishes if that's what calms you down, or whatever it is that like
it's going to get you back down and be level-headed
and to be able to then conquer it for the next 2 hours.
And I would also say as well, like to the person who's going through something like this is don't neglect the small prayers. Don't neglect crying out to the Lord for help.
Definitely.
Because sometimes we think, I need to say a big elaborate prayer. I can't talk to Jesus right now because I'm so upset, or I can't verbalize to the Lord what I'm thinking. But actually, if you just start by saying, God help me, Lord help me, you don't need to be any more specific than that, but maybe that can be the key to softening your own heart, to being able to accept help when it's offered. And then also the next step is if you're asking the Lord to help you, he is going to help you. It may not look like all of a sudden your baby's going to be just perfect.
It might be bringing somebody in.
Bringing somebody alongside of you, or giving you an idea that you maybe hadn't thought of before in terms of managing your mental health or whatever it could be. The Lord knows. And before you came here, I was just spending a bit of time just mulling over Matthew 11, down the bottom where it talks about Jesus saying, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. We have so many burdens that we can put on ourselves. And the Lord is saying to us, look, you have this burden. Why don't you just swap it for a minute for my burden, which is it's light. And not only that is we're yoked. My yoke, that's the joining together. Us and the Lord, we're together side by side, and he's going to help us through it. And you may not always feel like Jesus is on the other side of it, like walking with you shoulder to shoulder. But that's something he promises that
But I think when you look back at it, like I didn't feel that.
You didn't know?
At all. I was like, he's
Where are
far
you, Lord?
from. And like you said, the small cries, I did that all the time whilst he's crying. Help me, Lord. But I think now looking back, you can definitely see there were those moments where he actually had me under his, in the palm of his hand. And it would be a totally different situation if he hadn't or if I hadn't, trusted. And also if you need to call the health line. Because they're equipped for that too.
I remember calling Plunkett.
Plunkett.
I'm sorry, I'm like tearing up. I'm just like so proud of you. Like
thank
honestly,
you.
I'm like so happy for you and like so proud of you, like how far you have come through this, because I do remember seeing you like when you're in that hard time and being like, oh no, Vika, like what? I don't, I don't really know.
And you don't know what to do, right?
Or how I could effectively help.
And do you know what? So actually, another tip, if you are watching someone struggle and they're not ready to say, help me, make them a meal. Or if you know what type of chocolate they like or what their treat, their little like, their favorite snack, drop it off. It doesn't even have to be like face to face. Drop it in their letterbox, because it's those little things where they realize actually someone cares about me. It's not like I'm not in the thick of this alone. So that's my other tip.
Great.
Just drop a meal or secretly add a snack in to a letterbox or face to face if you want to. But sometimes the the little like things. the little secret things are just so great.
Yes, and I think that's a great thing for us, like as a Christian community, to be thoughtful of each other and to grow in love for each other. And that's a way to show love and support.
And prayer.
Yes, 100%,
pray for the person,
100%.
Because that's your best weapon.
Yes.
It's the person's best weapon. But if she or he, because dads can go through postpartum. I know that they haven't pushed through, but they're still dealing with all the change that has happened. They're dealing with the change of their wife and this new baby that is now all of a sudden
two crying individuals.
It's a lot. Thank you, Caleb, for all you dealt with, because it was 2 and actually often still is now 4. But pray for them. I do remember praying for you. Because that will eventually
and sometimes I don't know what to do for people sometimes, and like this is helpful even just talking to you about this, but that's where I usually go is prayer for the person. And you're right,
like if you're not a good cook, pray.
Or sometimes if you've got 3 kids yourself and you're not perhaps in the position to do it.
Exactly. Praying, you
or
don't
send
have
a little
to be
message thinking of you, praying for you. Awesome.
Exactly.
Great advice. All right, now finally we're going to wrap up here, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Krista.
We did it.
We had
to reschedule this like
so many
3 times. I don't know.
Family life, right?
Yeah, family life. So we made it happen. But I just thought before we go, could you maybe share a little bit about how you currently build and sustain your faith outside of Sunday, outside of the church service? What do you do to keep yourself grounded in Jesus?
Yep. So I mentioned that I got a small group with you guys. and it's just a group of mums. Mums, not mums. There's a mix.
There's non-mums.
Yeah, mums,
and
non-married.
Non-married.
It's just a mix of us ladies. And we studied the Bible. And then that motivates me to study my Bible at home. So we have little booklets that we go through. We'd previously been through James. An amazing
That was so
book.
intense,
Wow.
but great.
Yeah. Actually, we're still going through it.
Yeah,
But
me too.
we're having a break.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do it with my kids. So that's outside of Sunday. I'm teaching my kids how to be a Christian and how to have a relationship with Jesus outside of being at church. And church is important for us.
Absolutely.
We're there every Sunday.
Yeah, me too.
Unless we are sick. Don't spread those germs.
Stay away.
But yeah, it's teaching my kids and alongside teaching myself. And I also am trying to be accountable to my husband. I ask him, have you read your Bible today?
Yes.
Have you prayed today? He probably gets annoyed at it, but I keep doing it because I know the importance. And I've known in the last year or so how I've changed by reading my Bible and praying and having that relationship. So I'm like, babe, what have you learnt today? He's probably really sick of it, but he's going to keep getting it. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And I love, like, I can honestly just see such a change in you. And it is truly it's the gospel at work. It's that new creation. You are becoming a new creation. And I mean, all of us are when we put our faith and trust in Jesus.
Exactly.
And when we persevere in the faith, I think that's a big thing as well. Like, a lot of times we can come to that place where you're in despair and you choose to not choose Jesus, I guess. Yeah. But you chose Jesus, and I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
And you persevered and
still
look
persevering.
But the work of the Lord, it's just such a blessing.
Yeah. You cannot deny that Jesus is working. And I said that last year in the thick of everything. I was like, this is Jesus moving. Yeah. Because it is. I would not be here without him. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. And thanks for listening to this episode of the Outside of Sunday podcast. I'll catch you next time.
Ciao.
What's Russian for goodbye? Auf Wiedersehen? No,
that's German.
Congrats, you made it to the end of this episode of the Outside of Sunday podcast. Thanks for the support. Become an official outsider by liking and subscribing and leaving a 5-star review. You can connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. Just search Outside of Sunday podcast, and don't forget to let someone you know about this podcast.